Where's Tarina? There she is. I guess say hey to Tarina.
Hi.
When Tarina Potts was 24 years old, she made the decision to end it all. She put a chrome-plated Magnum Smith & Wesson in her mouth and pulled the trigger. Thankfully, she was not successful. Her best friend had broken into her home the day before and removed the bullets. She had a premonition that Tarina was going to do something stupid. The next day at work, a colleague invited Tarina to attend an AA meeting with him. And that one act of kindness changed her life forever. She'd always assumed that AA was a place where drunk old men drank steaming hot black coffee and told war stories. She soon learned that it was a 12-step process that took you on a healing journey within to face your fears and overcome them.
That's right.
And so her journey began as she discovered the source of her pain, which was the overwhelming fear that she was not enough and not worthy of love. She became sober at 36, but her cravings didn't subside. Doubt and darkness shrouded her progress. There would be times she would think that her addiction was hiding underneath her bed. Eventually, her fear left, a door opened, the pain walked through, leaving enough space for the light to shine through. So here she was, a new dawn. Feeling better about herself, her pain was gone, but she still couldn't see the way forward. You see, she found out that she was reborn in a sense, but the transformation had just begun. You see, the pain had been her driving force, and now without it, she felt hollow inside. Without the hot, searing pain of the emotional and the physical addiction, she felt purposeless. She used to paint these huge oil canvases of the human form in different expressive modes, but now the paintings stopped flowing. It was as if the pain held the brush and not her. She later found out that she was immobilized because she didn't believe the change was real. Even though she had made a lot of progress, she still had this new fear that she would go to bed at night and wake up with her old friend grinning beside her. It took years for Tarina to let go of her pain completely and her fear completely. But at 42 years old, she decided to embrace her new life and embrace the light within. And then she made the decision to adopt these two beautiful children. And now she has a third. She decided to share her light and start a family. She said that she's so happy her family didn't start any sooner, because if it did, her children would be in therapy now. Her kids are beautiful. She stares at them all day long. They ask her to stop. It gets on their nerves. Today, Tarina is happy and fulfilled. She's no longer afraid to look within. She has learned to love and be loved in return, without pain and without fear. And she has a dream. Her dream is to pay it forward and to help others know that they too can be reborn. Next slide, please. I might have to leave Tarina the whole time. That'll be fun. Today is Easter. It's the day we celebrate Jesus' miraculous resurrection from the dead. But as you know, prior to his rebirth, he experienced a tremendous amount of pain. Jesus, who transformed the world through love. Jesus, who did nothing wrong except help people, was condemned, tortured, forced to carry his own cross to the outskirts of Jerusalem to the top of a hill where he was crucified. One of the cruelest deaths imaginable. He hung there for hours until he took his last breath, surrendered, and uttered the words. Next slide, Chris. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. He was taken to a tomb where he lay there for 3 days. 2 women came to visit him on the 3rd day and dress his body in ancient Jewish custom, but his body was gone. He had risen from the dead. This is an ancient story. We've heard it since we were children. Why tell it again? You see, this transcendent story has tremendous meaning for us here in Unity. It does. It has tremendous meaning for us in Unity. Because Jesus, this fully actualized being, became one with the Christ essence that is within us all. He was our way short. He showed us the way to our own destiny, and he let us know the only thing missing in any of our life stories is the understanding that love is always here. In many ways, this is Serena's story. She had to die to the person that she was, didn't she? And her transformation didn't happen overnight. She lingered in her own tomb of self-doubt and fear. The same can be said for all of us. There's plenty of times we have to die to the people that we were, and we don't get out of our tomb so easily either. The only way we can escape from our self-made tombs is if we die to pieces that we were, and we allow ourselves to be reborn. That is the story of Jesus. That is the story of the resurrection. That is what Jesus came here to teach us. We all have the power to be reborn. We all have the power to resurrect our spirits from what we faced before. Next slide, Chris. Nancy Scott did not send me a picture. This is Nancy Scott. It's because you get to see her the entire time right here. Nancy Scott was 22 years old when her husband Terry had his first heart attack. Is that right? He was 26. They had been married for 2 years. The only plans they had prior to their wedding was to stay madly in love. He was her best friend. He was her soulmate. He meant everything to her. They didn't have any money. They didn't have any plans for a career, but they didn't care because they had each other, so they got married. Within a year, they had their only child, Denise Marie Scott. Within 2 years, Terry had what could only be called a major heart attack. He survived, but he was banned from doing any heavy work from here on out. Now, at the time, Nancy was a secretary with the IRS. She made the decision then that she could no longer have the career aspiration to be the best secretary the government ever had. She decided she had to advance. She decided she needed to make more money. But she was discouraged because she only had a high school diploma. She knew that the IRS only promoted you if you had a college degree, unless, of course, you were going to be a collection agent for delinquent accounts. So that's what she decided to do. She decided to go back to IRS University, put her child in government-sponsored daycare, and she worked harder than she's ever worked in her life. She continued to support Terry. He continued to support her. Their love continued to grow, but so did his health issues. His heart issues continued, and sadly, these weren't things they could fix in the 70s. So the medicine started, and the prayers started. By the time the end got there for Terry, or his physical death arrived, it had taken its toll on both of them. When Terry made his transition, Nancy became very depressed. She prayed to God to help her move forward and help her see a new way, but she couldn't see it. Her daughter wanted to help, but she was living in another town. She was married. She had a full life. So Nancy sat there in her empty house, depressed, not knowing where to turn. 6 months later, one of her friends suggested that she go to grief counseling. And on the first class, she had a flicker of light start in her heart again. She started to feel like she was coming back to life because she had this idea that maybe she could help people from what she had just experienced. And so she dove in like only Nancy can do. Pretty soon she was taking over the class as the teacher for those experiencing grief. She also decided at the time it was time to go back to church. And it was there that she heard God talk to her. God said, Nancy, get back to work. Help others. Help me. She was astounded that she could ever really help anybody. But she followed the voice. She made people her ministry. She made people her calling. In addition to working for the IRS, she became the vice president for her local union. She was the voice. She was the hands and feet for people who thought they were not seen or heard. And she continued her ministry, which was the people. She continued her service. It took her all the way to Washington, D.C. to work on a task force with Vice President Al Gore. All along the way, she continued to hear the voice. The more she heard the voice, the more she followed, the stronger she became. She received guidance and courage. And she kept asking herself, is it God talking to me? Is it Terry talking to me? She soon realized, no, it is the people talking to me and her love of the people. Nancy will say her life has been messy. She will say there's been ups and downs and highs and lows, but there was an eventual rebirth. Today, Nancy is on fire with life. She is alive. She is fully awake. She says that she sees the utter perfection in it all and knows how blessed she is. Like Nancy's story, Easter is a celebration of victory and truth. A Course in Miracles says that a slain Christ has no meaning, but a risen Christ represents healing and wholeness. You see, the story of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection 2,000 years ago is more than about just one enlightened being. It is the story of any human consciousness that can rise above the mortal limitations of the physical world. Fear, sadness, depression, anger, those emotions blind us. But love and acceptance and forgiveness, they show us the way. That is the story of your own resurrection and your own Christ light. That is the story of Easter. Today we've heard stories so far of major life-altering situations. We even talked about physical deaths, the death of Jesus, the death of Terry, but I'm here to tell you that birth and death are not once-in-a-lifetime events. Every day we choose to live a vibrant life or die just a little. Do you agree? Next slide, Chris. Unity minister and author, Unity minister and author Temple Hayes. She's at Unity of St. Petersburg. She wrote a book called When Did You Die? When Did You Die? She's really cool. She says that we're all dying a slow death. Each day we're dying a little. If any of the following pertain to us, see if any of these pertain to you. You are not using your gifts fully. You don't say what you truly want to say. You feel that you are seen. You feel that you are not seen or heard. You have had endless days of feeling sad or anxious. You have low energy. You defend yourself at least once a week. You are waiting for something to happen so you can be happy. You long for something more. You are discontent in a relationship. You're in a job that's passionless. You have an addiction of any kind. You have lost a loved one from death or separation and are not completely at peace. You are carrying a dream that is not fully realized. And the interesting thing is, this stuff doesn't seem to happen until we become adults. When we're little kids, we know to put ourselves fully into life. I loved the hokey pokey. Put your whole self in and shake all around. I loved it. We knew how to live vibrant and full lives. It was 1970 and I was on summer vacation. I couldn't wait for my day to begin. I'd spent the entire night tediously making out and planning a to-do list for my next day. My parents, they were out of town. My grandmother was babysitting. That was always best. So I woke up and I threw back the covers hours, and with gleeful anticipation, I ran to the dresser, and I got my to-do list, and I read over it, and it said this: eat breakfast, play with Mutt and Bootsy, those were our dogs, build a fort in the woods, ride my bike downtown, come back home for lunch, play softball with the neighborhood kids, take a nap, eat dinner, watch Bewitched and the Mod Squad. Go outside for a game to kick the can. I loved my life and I couldn't wait for each day to begin. So what happens to us as adults? I don't know too many adults that wake up and go, I can't wait to go to work today. I'm so excited. Well, why not? Could it be that something on this list is happening? Could it be that we're not aligning ourselves with our gifts, our God-given gifts? Let me share a story with you about just that. Next slide, please. Sharon Burkett, raise your hand. There she is. It was 1997, and Sharon Burkett was taking a workshop, engaged in a workshop called Finding Your True Calling. She was a new member of the Unity of Columbus, and she was absorbing all the truth and principles she possibly could. At the time, she was bored with her sales job. She felt like she wasn't living on purpose. She lost her zeal and her zest for life. She knew she wasn't using her gifts. She was uninspired each day. Needless to say, she was not throwing the covers back and jumping out of bed. She'd even consulted with a career specialist because she had a lifelong dream of becoming a psychotherapist and getting her PhD in psychology. But when she told the career specialist about this, the career specialist said, no. It's going to take 10 years and lots of money. Do something else. Sharon felt that her wings had been clipped just a little. She felt her dream start to die. And so she turned to Unity to look for the answers. She doesn't remember everything about the workshop, but she does know it was life-altering. At the very end, they did a meditation, and they were to recite a mantra that said, I am, heard that before, and they were to fill in the blank for something that meant something very important to them. She immediately wrote, I am a mirror. She didn't know what that meant, but she thought, well, maybe that means I'm supposed to be a photographer. She'd taken a photography class, and she was out snapping pictures all over town. But that didn't feel quite right to her. A few months later, she realized, well, maybe it means psychotherapy. You see, a key technique in psychotherapy is to reflect back through people the truth and power of who they are. The light started to come on in her heart again. She started to feel her dream come alive again. She started to wake up. She felt that she kept the mantra, I am a mirror, close to her heart for 6 years. Until the opportunity arose, and she went back to get her master's degree in counseling, which only took 2 years. Thank you. Today, she is an amazing counselor. She is changing lives. She's changing the world, making it a better place, living on purpose, on fire for life. She has been reborn. Thank you, Sharon. Sharon aligned with her true human self by aligning with her gifts that were given to her. Sometimes we have to go even deeper than that. Sometimes we have to align with our sacred self. Sometimes we have to embark on a spiritual quest. Next slide. Brenda, raise your hand. Brenda Penn, there she is. Brenda Prendergraft came to Unity Church and Unity in Greensboro for the first time in 2011. And she immediately felt like she was at home. Any of you ever felt that feeling before when you came here? She immediately felt as if she was home. She had escaped a lifetime of limiting beliefs, false beliefs, feeling of low self-worth, not feeling valued or valuable, not feeling worthy of love. She'd spent many nights where she felt hopeless and alone. And because of that, she was sick. She had a lot of health issues. The VA had a big team of doctors just working on her case. Until one day she met an angel named Alex, who showed her love and friendship and support. He took her to her appointments, was just there for her through and through. And the best gift Alex gave Brenda was bringing her here to Unity in Greensburg, because the minute she walked in the door, she will tell you she felt like there was hope again. Brenda immediately immersed herself in all things Unity. She took classes. She started serving. She started giving her gifts away and serving and doing volunteer work. They started the bingo program here with Catherine. She started drumming and realized, man, I can go into this theta state. She's quite a drummer. Like, Brenda, come up here and drum with us. She went to the theta state. She stayed in that theta state. She took mystical classes and spiritual classes. And you know what? Job opportunities started coming her way. She started feeling healthier and happier. She started getting well. Her doctors asked her, what is her secret? Because she's even lost 100 pounds. Have you seen her? They asked her what her secret was, and she said, spirituality, positivity, a life of meditation. I look out and I love looking at your smiling face because you never miss a Sunday, or you rarely do. She will tell you the person that she was is a distant memory. Today she feels whole. Today she feels new. She has had a resurrection of her spirit and of her life. Thank you, Brenda. The stories we have heard today, the courageous people, Trina, Nancy, Sharon, and Brenda, let us know that we can be reborn anytime we want to be. Jesus told us that you are more than any problem you have ever had or will ever have. But you have to choose to live. You have to know you are in charge of your destiny. Sometimes it's easier said than done. I can tell you this, I can tell you these stories, and you're still going, okay, but how do I get started? Reverend Hayes, in her book, When Did You Die?, lays out some beautiful steps to help us get there. Next slide. The first thing Reverend Hayes says to do is restore all parts of your soul. I read her book. What she means is surrender to a higher power. This has to be deeply personal, you guys. There is no one right path. Reverend Hayes is a shaman. She will tell you, find your own shaman, because shamans look through life through the eyes of infinity and wholeness. And that is beautiful. But it is not the only way. Tarina found the 12 steps. Nancy went back to Catholicism before finding unity. Brenda and Sharon found unity. I have been in unity for 30 years. And I have had deeply mystical and spiritual healing experiences. But I've also had healing experiences through Nancy's sound healing meditations. I've also experienced mystical and spiritual moments through Barbara's angel work, through the healers in this church. The point is find your own path, and when you do, dive in, give yourself to it, make it a daily spiritual practice. Surrender your all to it. When you do, you will know you can be healed. Next slide. Step 2 by Reverend Hayes is transcend your shadows. We all have shadows, but they only emerge when we turn our backs to our own light. We all have fears. We've got to love those fears, as Tarina did. We've got to embrace them and set them free, because when we do, we'll know that they were not hiding under our bed, and they never were. Charles Fillmore, founder of Unity, says that fear is the dirt that's in our eyes that keeps us from seeing who we truly are. Next slide. Be reborn is the real you. Each of the people we heard from today showed us that we need sometimes to die to the people that we were. We all need to do that, at least parts of us. Sometimes we need to let die away and be content in the void. When you're in the tomb, what's happening is the next platform of your journey has just not emerged yet, but it will. You must find your faith. Remember when Jesus told us in the Sermon on the Mount, God so clothed the lilies of the valley. There's nothing to fear. The universe wants nothing more than to meet your needs. But you must have faith that you will prevail. Next slide. Love yourselves and others unconditionally, Reverend Hayes says, if you want to be reborn. Can you guys answer something for me? When did we lose, as a society, our intimate relationship with our Creator? When did we lose our intimate relationship with all living things, with ourselves? We've got to love unconditionally. We've got to love ourselves enough to embrace our fears, to honor our inner calling, to speak our truth. We've got to love ourselves, be kind to ourselves. We all desire love, do we not? Plants do better when you talk to them. Wild animals settle into a rhythm when animal communicators talk to them because they feel seen and they feel heard. And you know what else? We also have to forgive. Loving others means we have to forgive. It is not a part of the divine plan to greet each day with bitterness and resentment. We are supposed to start each day with joy and wonder and see each other as the divine beings that we are. Jesus said, forgive and be forgiven. When you do, you will have a clear vessel that the good can come through. Next slide. Temple Hayes says we've got to give yourself permission to dream again. We are born into this incarnation and we innately know what's possible. We are connected to the infinity of the universe, and so the sky is the limit. So here again I ask you, when did dreaming and desiring turn into dreading and disclaiming? When did joy and wonder turn into feeling disconnected and drained? We've got to listen and be still and listen to your longings, because that's your soul's desire to be reborn. Listen to your dreams. It doesn't matter if your dream is to adopt 3 beautiful children, or if your dream is to work for a vice president, or to be a counselor, or to go on a spiritual quest. You must listen to those dreams. You must listen. Mary Morrissey, another great spiritual leader, she says, we're living in an expanding universe, and your spirit wants the same. Life is craving an expanded expression of itself. You know, a blade of grass will press through the cement to move towards the light. You must let your dreams press through the cement. You must let them emerge again, regardless of what they are. And finally, she says to keep an open heart. See, these little deaths that we experience shut our heart down. They kill our heart. They shut it down. But if you do those other steps, if you surrender to a higher power, if you allow yourself to be reborn, if you love each other conditionally, if you allow yourselves to dream, you can keep an open heart. You can live fully alive. When you keep an open heart, you will feel, you will give, and you will receive more than you thought was possible. You are more than the conditions of your life. Jesus taught us that we can do more than He. Did He say that repeatedly? You are more than conditions of your life. He told us that you transcend those circumstances. But you have to remember who you are and let the rest fall away. You know the story when Michelangelo was sculpting the David. What did he do? He created an image and he chipped the rest away. You must let those parts of yourself fall away. Jesus told us, again, we can do greater things than He, but you have to allow yourself to live life fully expressed. Allow yourselves to be reborn over and over again. Some days the ocean waves are bigger than others, but they don't stop until they reach the beach. So now I want you to look around this room. Look around. Look around your kindred spirits. Take them in. The creative flow of the universe is moving through this room. Wouldn't you agree? Yes. You want to know why? Because when 2 or more are gathered in my name, in Spirit's name, there is more love, there is more abundance, there is more healing. We are having a collective rebirth. That's why you come here. You could read this, you could stay home, you could listen to a YouTube. You're here because it creates a collective rebirth. We're creating a resurrective field. And in a minute, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves to each other. You think you know each other, but as the great Michael Beckwith says, we don't know each other. Because we could have had an insight and now be changed. You could have known somebody last week, they could have had a transformation and now be a different person. You might be sitting to the next Buddha, the next resurrected Christ, the next enlightened being. So right now, turn and say hello to the person sitting beside you as your new self. And as we leave today, I have one more thing to ask of you. We're going to create our own I am mantra, as Moses taught us to do, and as Jesus taught us to do, and as Sharon reminded us of today. So please, repeat after me. I am more than the circumstances of my life.
I am more than the
I am a divine being and the power of God lives in me.
I am a divine being and the power of God lives in me.
I am becoming more of my authentic self.
I am becoming more of my authentic self.
And I am reborn.
And I am reborn.
I am reborn.
I am reborn.
I